Ooh, I just finished watching Rolling Thunder. Oh my God. I went from screaming in horror to laughing outrageously to cringing at this movie. But the one word that came out of my mouth repeatedly was Tarantino, Tarantino. I could I mean I this must have been his inspiration. I think he named his studio or his film studio Rolling Thunder. Of course he did. Um, this movie was made in 1977. Tommy Lee Jones, William Devane, Dabney Coleman, and James Best, better known as Roscoe P. Coltrane from Dukes of Hazzards. He's the bad guy in this movie. And he's kind of chubby, too. I didn't expect that. But, oh my goodness gracious. I am, okay, let me try and put my mind together on this one and give you the lowdown. Uh, Major Rains, POW in Vietnam. This is 1977. So there's still a lot of focus on the Vietnam War, the veterans, and the damage done to them during the war. And especially because this guy was a POW, they do a lot of flashbacks for him in the beginning of the movie where he sits in a garage shack or something, and he reenacts his incarceration, I guess you call it, or captivity and torture. He doesn't reenact the torture. He reenacts the environment of the captivity, isolation, rigidity. It became his normal, right? And he's not comfortable outside of being a captive. He sits, very quiet man, because who did he have to talk to in captivity? Nobody. He couldn't talk to the Vietnamese. They didn't speak English. They weren't there to talk to people. They were there to torture people. Okay, so seems like this Major Rains was a good guy. I mean, William Schrader, or is it? I forget. Okay, sorry about that. I wrote notes, but still got the name a little bit wrong. Hold on just 1 minute. I'm going to get that name. Rolling Thunder, directed by John Flynn, Paul Schrader, screenplay, Paul Schrader, the original story. Okay, good. So got that down. So I guess in his original story, Rains was a racist, like a raging racist. And this is during a time, too, when there's a lot of discussion in America around race. There's, in 68, there was the riots and just so much going on in the landscape of America at the time. And the 70s were still, hot. Still recovering, I think, from the murder of Martin Luther King. Still recovering from the murder of Robert Kennedy. Still recovering from all the killings in the Black Panthers and the Soledad brothers, and all of this is still reverberating in America. The 70s, the early 70s into the mid to late 70s, it was still a lot of tension, a racial tension, and different things going on. So I think this movie was intended to reflect that, but it really doesn't. Instead of his racism isn't present in the movie. And as far as I'm concerned, that was supposed to be one of the highlights of this character, is his racism. And I think what happens is it gets watered down and it becomes against Latinos, not Black people. There's hardly any Black people in this film. I think I saw maybe two. Not that it's important. It's not about Black people. It's about these white men who served in Vietnam and who got really messed up, being in the military. So I don't see any racism in the character straight off. If that was intended to be part of his characteristics that had something to do with the rest of the movie, I just didn't see it. There was one, jumping way forward in the scene in the Hoe House, the bordello, whatever you want to call it. In Mexico, we have Tommy Lee Jones. The madam, I guess it was, asked him, well, what kind of girl are you looking for? And I'm looking for essentially a white girl, not a Mexican. You know, he says it in a way where it really comes across as very racist, and you know, and maybe that's alludes to some of what Schrader originally wanted in the script or whatever, and just didn't get in there. Jumping backwards again, so we get to why this man becomes so violent. So Major Raines is married. His wife has been cheating on him. Why? Happened a lot. She thought he might be dead. And it had been years. And so what was she supposed to do? So she had a boyfriend. She was cheating on him. And it had progressed to the point where they were actually engaged and wanting to marry. He had to either put up with that, walk away, or whatever. And it just seems like he knew how to hold it in. That's what he did in Vietnam, in captivity. He stuffed everything down. So he didn't confront her. He kind of just stepped aside. I really like that in the movie. I like William Devane no matter what he's in. He has, I mean, he's not like movie star handsome. He's rugged handsome, right? I like that in a man. And so he's not like throwing a fit about this. He's kind of like openly sharing his wife with this guy because he knows that's the eventuality. And even there's like a part right in the beginning, which I think is well done, where they just picked him up at the airport. They're getting in the car. The cop, who is her lover, talks to his son like he's his daddy. And Major Raines just like pauses for just a second. He takes that in. He goes, okay, I see. You've been my wife. Okay, I get it. I've been gone. You know, everybody has to get theirs in. So he didn't really trip. So, so here we go. They get to the part where he's getting rewarded. A big flashy red, was it an Eldorado? It should have been an Eldorado. It might have been. Big flashy red Cadillac and $2,000, which I guess in 1977 was a lot of money. Today, $2,000 is like $200, honestly. But at any rate, so they give him this stuff, and I guess it's all on the airways. Everybody finds out about it. And he comes home, and these crooks are in his house. And they're like, dude, give us the silver coins of $2,000. And he's like, he just looks at him like, no, I'm not. Y'all aren't even facing me. I was tortured in Vietnam. Y'all don't even face me. Well, they put his hand in the thing in the sink. Yeah, garbage disposal. The thing that we all fear. The thing I always feared. Whenever I was around the garbage disposal, I'd be like, don't get get your hands away. Get your hands away. Well, the thing we all fear, they did to him. They shoved his hand in there while it was not, they started it, then oh my God. I was reading where Paul Schrader was saying that people in the theater went crazy in that scene because it's just, I guess in the 70s people hadn't seen a lot of gore in movies. Maybe Night of the Living Dead hadn't come out already, I think, by 77. And that was one of the most gory things I'd ever seen. So I think that maybe this was close. But they didn't show, in the original version, I guess, not the original version, but they wanted to show, and they, like a mangled bones and guts, not guts. There's no guts in your hand. Tissue, right? Muscle, sinew. They wanted to show it like wiggling all around and stuff. You know, people would have just like thrown up in the theater and slipped in their vomit, and it would have been chaos. It would have been chaos. As it was already chaotic, just with that little bit, that they did show. Um, it was quite violent. Then it was like the wife and son barge in on this all happening, and the son goes, "I'll tell you where it is." And he tells them they get it, and then they leave, and I guess to make sure that they can't call the cops, they killed the son and the wife. And William Devane passes out. We see him next in the hospital recovering. He's got his little groupie, the little blonde chick, all American girl, blonde, yes. I've worn your POW bracelet, and now I'm your groupie, and she's his groupie, right? And she works in a bar. She's kind of wild. She knows how to shoot a shotgun and a pistol, and she's wild. Yes, raised by a military man who wanted a little boy. So I guess that's his little boy. I think women can be raised as women and still like to shoot guns. But anyway, that's a movie from 1977. We segue into him planning his revenge. And he drives into Mexico, and he does the scene. Now this is not supposed to be, well, I take that back. Tarantino would have made this intentionally funny, but I don't know if the director wanted this intentionally to be funny. But he has a hook, the guy, because he remembers he was in the grinder. And he sharpened it before he left. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that's kind of neat. He's going to have an additional weapon, I guess, but I don't see exactly how he's going to employ this hook until I see this scene in the bar. And I tell you, he was whooping butt in that bar scene. But where I started hollering was when he, okay, I had to call my brother and tell him about this. It was so funny. Okay, I won't get graphic. Well, how do I... Okay, anyway. So he takes the hook, the worst guy in the movie, the one you hate, the white cowboy hat, the skinny guy. He takes the hook and he hooks him in the nether region. That's the most decent way to say it. That's not what I told my brother, though. We were both howling because I explained it a whole different way. But he hooks him in the nether region, and his reaction was, oh, shit. I was like, appropriate. What do you say when you get hooked in the nether region? You go, or you go, one of the two. I mean, what comes out of your mouth is X-rated for sure. I'm just guessing. And so that part, I had actually tears coming out of my eyes. It was hilarious. But there was something in the rhythm and the balance of it that seemed to make sense. I mean, these things like from graphic, it's like a graphic novel come to life, and it's just so real. The realism is gritty, it's gray, it's gross, it's dark, it's all this. But because William Devane keeps a straight face, it made me laugh all the harder. I'm still having a little bit of that right now, but okay. So they do that thing, then there's all, then they talk, him and the girl and the thing. And there's some other killing that's gratuitous. Somehow they hook up with Tommy Lee Jones, and I think he lives in El Paso. Now, I've never been to Texas. Never. Well, that's not true. I have a good story about my oh my goodness. When I was very small, my mother wanted to visit a relative in San Diego. We lived in Missouri. We got on the train. My mother loved the train. She didn't know nothing about airplanes, and she wasn't about to get in one. So we took the train. And we went across country, and we stopped in Texas, in a small town in Texas. I didn't know anything about Texas except for cowboys. That's all I knew, right? Because I'm a little kid, little. My feet didn't even touch the floor of the car. You know, we were in the thing. And so my mother, at some point, she gave us. There's four of us, and we were all little. We were like that. And she gave us money, and she was tired. She said, "Go to the dining car and just have some ice cream, right? You know, just she wanted us out of her hair because we were raucous." So we go to the dining car and we climb into the seats and we're sitting there and we're looking. Now, listen, all of us are the smartest little kids you ever come across. We read well be above our grade levels and age levels. We were smarty aleck little nerdy kids. That was us. And so when they brought the menus and I remember the waiter was kind of like, you know, and we're looking, you know, we're these little kids with these big menus and we're reading them. And he comes back and he goes, well, what are you going to have like that? And I said, I think I'd like the mushroom soup. And we were like, or like steak and mushroom soup and stuff like that. That's not what our mother told us to do. And we didn't have the money for that. And so we're sitting there and we eat like little pigs. We're just ordering left and right, left and right. He comes with the check and he looks at us. And my brother puts the money out there. And it's not money for a meal for 4 children. It's just not. And the waiter's looking at us and he said, well, where's your mother? And my brother, well, we're kind of smart alecky kids too. And my brother said something like, well, my mother didn't have anything to do with this, which was true. And I don't know what they were going to do to us. We didn't really care. We weren't living in reality. We were joyriding and eating. There was a white family sitting across from us on the other side. It was a son, a mother, and a father, as I recall. And the father called the waiter over. And I believe he paid for our food. And that was Texas for me. It was this man, white man, paying for 4 little bratty black kids who were being bad, paying for our meal. And I don't know who he was. I appreciate him. That's all I can say. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I hope that at that time we had the good manners to say thank you. Probably not, because we were little smart asses, but thank you, sir. Anyway, getting back to the movie. That was a commercial, by the way, for Texas. Yes. There's good people in Texas, I know. I have another good friend in Texas. I want to come visit her sometime. See Texas in another way. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying about the movie. So moving past the point where he's having the affair with the blonde, his little groupie, he leaves her behind at some point and goes in uniform. I don't know, the symbology of putting on the uniform, I guess, was I'm going to war. Real war this time. Not as a captive, but as a fighter, as a soldier. And he took off, goes and hauls Tommy Lee Jones, who is, I mean, his acting, oh my God. He's sitting with his family, and you would think, like, after you've been in war, that you'd just be, like, so happy to be with your wife again, to be with your family, your dad, and all this. And he's sitting there just like, I think I'd rather be back in Vietnam. Literally, that's how he looked. Like, none of this is sinking into my brain. I don't really care. Something, my heart isn't like into any of this. And here we have his wife is like incredulous. She's like, why aren't you going to stay and eat? And why aren't you wearing your uniform? You never put it on when I asked you to wear it. That was also very cute. He leaves. He says, bye, Daddy. And they leave and they go to Mexico. And he says they're holed up at a whole house. And it's like there's just like this like expressionless thing going on in Tommy Lee Jones. Both of them are just cold-blooded, They're cold-blooded killers, right? And this is something that was sometimes addressed about the men who came back from Vietnam, is how the change affected them, how they were substantively changed from being in a place where killing was normal, the normal, right, to a place where killing was not normal, not in that way at any rate. And the murder of his children just swung open the door to them to go and to revisit this bloodletting that they left in Vietnam. And there was a feeling that we're going to do it better. We're going to do it better. It's most, now, the write-up I read, I don't know if it was Paul Schrader's words or somebody else's, is that it was his racism was expressed through his focusing mainly on Mexicans to kill in this movie. Well, James Best, also known as Roscoe P. Coltrane in The Dukes of Hazzard, was a white man. The main killer, a white man. The Mexicans were all like followers and very unimportant in the scheme of things. So I don't get that here. I don't get that here. What fascinated me was how I could be watching these two guys who are murderers, mass killers. Yes, they're going after murderers and bad guys. It's like, we're not supposed to care about bad guys, and I didn't. What I cared about were the souls of the two soldiers. It's like, I wanted them to have had enough and to be reformed. I wanted to see them change people after they came back to this soil. And it was like, oh, that just gave them an opening to be the murderers that they were. Were they already these bloody murderers before they ever went to Vietnam? Was Vietnam just a catalyst, for them to express their racist murdering, like murder spree? So they bust into the whorehouse where Tommy Lee Jones says, yeah, I don't particularly want a Mexican, I want a good old American girl. What is American girls doing in a Mexican bordello? I don't know, but I guess that happens. Don't know. Anyway, so they get in the room. He gets in the room with her, and he's still this distant, detached individual who seems only to be focused on one thing, and that is revenge. Revenge for his friend. He's like a spree killer. He's not attached to the revenge at all, but he needs to kill. And this is an excuse. And somehow his friend knew he needed to kill because it would bring him to life again. He was dead. He was a zombie. And this killing brought him back to life. It was strange, to see the smile come on his face, and that scene where where William Devane gives him the signal and he jumps up and starts putting his shot. You could tell Tommy Lee Jones knows his way around a weapon. That's all I know. Put the shotgun together, and I have always been impressed with how he used his body. There was something about, okay, so all of us are right side dominant or left side dominant. Okay, that's how our brains sort it all out. And people will have a preference for one side or another side, even when they walk, whatever you do. And you could see it in film. You could see it in film. You could see it in me right now. I tend to do this. I'm right-handed. Something about Tommy Lee Jones tells me he uses both sides of his body almost equally. How does he do that? I watch him walk. Well, of course I watch him walk. But I noticed that he walks in a way where it's like his brain is like, he's got this thing on his balance in his brain where he's like walking. I don't know. It seems like the way he uses his body is equally, both hands, both sides. And he's an athlete. I mean, I know he played football at Harvard, but this man clearly was an athlete, or is. I don't know now if he's still able, but oh my gosh, he had an athlete's body. He moved like an athlete. And it was beyond that, even where he just had this thing. I bet he uses his left hand, and I bet he does. I would bet money on that. I would. I know that you can't fire, like, I'm left eye dominant. No, yes, I'm left eye dominant, but I'm right-handed. If I chose to learn to shoot a pistol, no problem, but I was told if I learned to use long weapons, I would have to retrain my eye to use my right eye. And I noticed that when I try to do this, it's all over the place. So, yeah, so that's my problem. And my brother was in the Marines, by the way, and I remember him sending home pictures of himself with his eye patch on because he's also left eye dominant. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it runs in the family, maybe. So, yes, I noticed that about him, that his body, athletic, beautiful. There's a lot of good-looking men in Hollywood at that time. A lot of them with probably athletic backgrounds. I have never seen a man use his body like Tommy Lee Jones. Strength, agility, that duality, able to make both sides of his brain, use his motor neurons or whatever to use both. I don't know. It's just, in effect, it's beautiful to watch. He's not just athletic, but like a dancer. He's like a dancer. Because when you're dancing, what do? You have to learn left-footed dancing as well as right-footed dancing. I dance salsa. I dance kizomba. I dance bachata. I dance samba. So you do something on the right side, you do it on the left. And I think dancers have that body balance. He definitely has something very beautiful with his movements and his body. He has this little narrow waist, It's kind of like the quintessential cowboy silhouette, I think. So that's that, not to focus too much on that. But in this movie, it's very evident he's young, he's athletic, he's beautiful to look at. He is distant, brooding, simmering. There's just something very dangerous about him. But it was like I never feel in his movies like his anger is focused on women or is about women. I never feel threatened by him. But in fact, I feel like with women, he's gentle, But I have a feeling that with him, if you're a guy, you probably catch hell from him pretty quickly. That's what I think anyway. But William Devane. Now, he was in Space Cowboys as well as the mission special director. What else was he? I just love William Devane. I think he played Robert Kennedy or John Kennedy in a movie. It's very hard to pull that together right now, but he just has those looks, kind of that New England Irish look, that's kind of attractive. Big teeth, big hair, very Kennedy-esque look. It's a very, very lovely look, I think, for a man. He's very masculine. I like that. I don't like men who aren't masculine. And he's very, very masculine. And, of course, no need to discuss that Tommy Lee Jones is just scrumptiously masculine in this movie. I don't have a problem with guns in movies as long as it makes sense. And I don't, and this is going to sound odd, but please bear with me. If a man could use the way men, there is a a way that a man handles a gun that's almost sexy. Um, and I'm not talking about women with guns. I'm not talking about military. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about when it's filmed in a certain way, when you're trying to get something across, not about the gun, but about the man, that a gun is a great tool in bringing out something. And that's all I'm saying. So I love, love, love Rolling Thunder. I looked forward to seeing it. I finally paid my $2.99 to Voodoo to see it. My brother thinks I'm stupid for spending money. He goes, I can see those movies without spending money. Well, guess what? I couldn't. I tried, because these videos are part of my reflections on my binge watching Tommy Lee Jones movies. I can't watch them all, and I can't do videos, reflections, or reviews on all of them. And right now I'm catching a cold and I have a sore throat and it hurts to talk. So maybe you could see a little bit in my eyes that they're a little red. But I think this might be the last review, and I really do appreciate everybody. Not a lot of people are watching them, but that's okay. It's fun doing it, and it's just fun, hopefully making new friends here. And let me know what you think. I really do want to know what people think of the reviews and reflections, because it is a reflection. I'm no expert on any of this. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm a film watcher. So these are all of it is my opinions. Sometimes my humor. I hold back sometimes on my humor because I don't want people watching this and then thinking, oh, she's this or that type of person because she said this word or did that thing. I'm a Sagittarius. And if you know anything about the zodiac, I am a quintessential Sagittarius. And that means I'm fire and I'm out there. Also born in the year of the dragon. What can I do? I had no control over that fabulosity. So at any rate, thank you for watching. Maybe if I watch another movie by accident or something, I'll be back. But enjoy this video. Thank you very much.